I'm ready. I'm ready. 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 Hi. Hello, everybody. All right. Are we live? All right. Oh, hi, I'm Lisa. I just wanted to make sure everybody was there. I'm supposed to start my introduction now, right? I'm Lisa Loeb, and I'm a musician. Mainly, I'm a mom now of a daughter named Lila, who's 2 years old, who's downstairs running around after eating her dinner. And my husband should be home any minute. I live in Los Angeles, and I'm pregnant with a boy, a baby on the way. Here's my baby. I don't know if you can see. um, anyway, I'm really excited to be here. Um, Lately, I've been working on a lot of different kinds of projects, including my silly song sing-along book called Lisa Loeb Silly Song Sing-Along, The Disappointing Pancake and Other Zany Songs, which comes with a CD. And it's a collection of silly songs and sing-alongs and activities and a few recipes you can do with your kids. And I also recently, over the last year or so, have been working on an eyewear line. So I have eyewear so that you can also wear glasses like mine. Glasses are important to me, so it's been really exciting developing eyewear that I think looks good on women and that women feel comfortable wearing. And I'm still making a lot of grown-up music as well. I have a poppy rock punky record coming out later this year. And I'm working on a lot of other projects too, but we can talk about those more later. But that is who I am. And I'm so glad that everybody is here. And I want to know if there's any questions. Okay, Crayola wants to know, of course, why creativity matters. And I also want to say I'm really excited to be here with Crayola because probably like a lot of you, Crayola has played into my creativity growing up, at least the arts and crafts side of creativity. And I think for me, creativity is really important. You know, part of it is the arts and crafts and being able to express yourself artistically. People associate creativity with expressing yourself artistically, especially if you're talking about Crayola. But I think it's especially as a grown up, I'm able to look back and realize that it's also just a way of life. You know, it's a way that you experience life, and it's the way of looking at life. And um, it's problem solving, and it's appreciating things around you with all of your senses. You know, the texture of certain things, of, you know, my daughter's blanket, or the way that right now outside in California it smells like orange blossoms. Just always having that part of your brain and that part of your body kind of alive makes living more vivid, and so that's really important to me. I also think that creativity, especially for kids, really enhances their independence. Just like learning to read and write, things aren't always about school. School is really important to me growing up, but I think feeling like I have this independence, and giving kids this independence where they're able to express themselves in a nonverbal way, um, that can either provide them with, if it's creative activities, it's something they can do on their own, which is a really special moment. It's very meditative, or something they can do in a group, or something they can do to express themselves in some way. I think it really gives them a lot of independence, which is very important for kids. Um, and you know, it's not just about the art. It's not just about the project that the kid's going to make. It's about that process of making something, of thinking of something new. So creativity means the world to me. Okay, we have another question. They want to know what role my parents played in building my creativity and my love for music, and foster my love for music and writing. Um, did they encourage encourage messy artwork, play, and imagination? My parents played a large role. I grew up in Dallas, Texas, and um, again, the schools that my parents helped choose for us, and the places and the people that we hung out with, babysitters and parents and my siblings. I have two brothers and a sister. My parents always provided us with as many crayons and paint and glue, and if it wasn't at home, again, we were sent to schools where all of these things were available, and they let us do what we want. I remember that one of the things we loved to do when I was growing up in the 70s was make paper bag puppets that we would make based on some of the TV shows we liked watching, like Tony Orlando and Don, and Donnie and Marie, and we'd make these paper bag puppets. Um, but my parents, especially my mom, who was at home with us, while my dad was at work, um, she she let us do what we wanted. And it wasn't just about making things like a paper bag puppet. We did things like we would take over the house or the backyard making tents out of brooms and blankets and creating spaces for ourselves, and being able to um, just let our imagination go wild. My mom let us set up all of the Barbie dolls, and we had a general store and an airplane and fashion studios, and we just did so much creating stories. So I think the house was very, very creative. They also did more specific academic things like send us to piano lessons and art lessons and ballet lessons and make sure that we all were reading and writing well. But but they definitely fostered our creativity. And again, like the kind of school, I went to an all-girls school in Dallas, and which was remarkable. They really helped us as students learn how to read poetry in English and in Spanish, um, and literature, and really take the text apart and see things in different ways. And even in third grade, again, in a more specific art related way, we had a teacher teaching us about art and about um, American art, and how to look at it and how to observe, whether it was in science class or art class. Um, so creativity was always a very natural part of our life, and again, not necessarily having to do with becoming a professional musician or a professional artist or whatever. It was just your life sort of needed to have that element to make it more fun. Um, and they also did definitely encourage they encouraged some messy artwork. I think they dealt with it very well. They dealt with any messiness we would have very well. I think we were pretty neat kids. Although I remember a SpaghettiOs fight my older brother and I had when I was very little, where we were flinging with a spoon, flinging SpaghettiOs up on the wall. But otherwise, yeah, we always had tons of the tools that we needed to make things. And again, whether it was through classes learning how to do art, or if it was just the creative way in which we lived. Even, they would let us take over the entire living room and pretend like we were the band Queen. And each of us would have a fake instrument and we'd play instruments. So even creativity on that side of things constantly existed in my house full of kids. Um, they also want to know, what is the day? Okay, here's another question. What's a day in the life in my home? Um, my home, probably like many of yours, if you have kids, we wake up early, not too early, like 6:37, and eat breakfast. We love breakfast. Um, Again, creativity does play a part of that. We let Lila, my daughter, pull a chair up to the countertop, and we let her help us spread her peanut butter on her toast or her almond butter, and help decide, do we want sticks or do we want triangles, and what kind of jelly do we want, and what does it taste like, and where does it come from, and oh, look at the jar, you can see the picture of the strawberry. It must be a strawberry. Is it sweet? Is it hot? What you're drinking, cold or hot? Is there ice? I really encourage Lila to touch things and smell things and taste things. Sometimes we make muffins for breakfast, and she literally will taste most of the ingredients, not the raw eggs, of course, but she'll taste the baking soda and the flour, and she'll help me with the texture, and we'll talk about it a lot. So anyway, we make breakfast, and then we start playing. On some days she goes to school for a couple of hours in the morning. On some days she goes to a My Gym class type of thing where she goes and runs around. She goes to the park a lot. Um, but it's structured, but there's a lot of free time to walk around. We take a lot of walks outside, and we play in the sand, and we have the sand table. Um, and art-wise, just like the way I was raised, I might even do it to a larger extent, because as a grown-up, even before I had Lila, it was always important to me. As a writer and also just somebody who likes to doodle, I always have paper at, in most of the rooms. There's usually a bucket or a container full of markers or crayons or something. I just really like to doodle. It helps me focus. It's relaxing to me. I like to draw. So I like to do the same for Lila. When she was even younger, we have huge pads of paper, you know, big enough for her to be able to sit on. And then she could draw with different colors and, you know, play with things. So it's a combination of a pretty structured wake up, have breakfast, play, go do something. Other times, you know, we let her lead. If she really wants to go outside, we go outside and play. If she wants to go in the front yard, we go outside and maybe take a walk and visit the neighbors. And at some point, around between 1:30 and 2:30, she goes down for a nap for a couple hours, then wakes up, and then we play some more, eat dinner, depending on if it's dark or light outside. Again, we can go outside, or we can play, or we can paint. So those are some of the things that we do in our home. Does that answer the question? Let's see, there's some more questions here. There's so much debate about coloring in the lines versus outside of the lines. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading. It's a really small print. Which is better for a child's growth and development? What do I think? What do I practice with my daughter? What do I practice with my daughter? Well, when I was growing up, I actually really enjoyed coloring in the lines. I liked following the rules and coloring in the lines, and there was a satisfaction to that. And I think that's its own skill. It's fine motor skills. It's also this interesting ritual where you feel like you're actually able to accomplish something if you're filling in little squares. You know, we used to do something called doodle art where it was just all about all the little spaces that you would color in with all the different colors. And so there is something to that that's very satisfying for some people. I actually prefer not to give her any coloring books, though, or anything like that. If we're sitting and drawing together and I draw a circle or I draw a shape and she wants to try to color it in, then that's great. That's totally cool with me, and I think it's really great, and it's great to see her color in the lines. But again, I'm trying to spend more time listening to her and watching her instead of asking her always, "Oh, what are you drawing?" You know, even as far as like what she's drawing, I try to wait and see what she's drawing. Not always say, "What are you drawing?" Like I try not to expect her to put a name on what she's drawing. Like, I'm drawing a house, or I'm drawing a circle. Sometimes she tells me, "Mommy, it's a bridge. I drew a bridge," or "I drew a circle," or "It's a face," or "It's a mustache," or whatever. But I think it's important, you know, not to draw, not to emphasize coloring in the lines over having more freedom to do what you want to do. I think a lot of us as grown-ups, of course, appreciate having boundaries and having discipline, but at the same time, I think a lot of us have also, I know I have learned that really thinking on my own and being creative has helped me in life, and it's more fun. Okay, somebody named Mommy Insider wants to know. Oh, that question was from Deb, by the way. This next question is from Mommy Insider. She wants to know, how do I choose which of my daughter's pieces of artwork to hang on to and which ones to put in the recycle bin? That's a hard question. Again, I grew up in a house with 4 kids, and my mom saved everything. So I could probably find you, you know, my artwork from preschool, my math homework from 8th grade, everything. So it's definitely a priority for me to figure this out. Right now, the things that I keep are the ones that she did herself. You know, sometimes in preschool classes or little programs, the teachers or people are helping the kids do things. I try to keep things that she has made. There are some things like over here. Wait, let me show you this really quickly. Sorry, I'm in my office here's one thing that she made for me with our nanny. It's a Mother's Day card. I don't know if you can see that. Can you see that? But it's made up of handprints and footprints, and she gave it to me, and she said, "Mommy, I made it." Of course, she had help making it, but it's a frame that you can actually open the box and layer the pictures. So there's actually a couple of different things here, so I can switch them out and put them on the wall. Um, but I don't know. I'm learning. I'm trying to learn what to keep and what not to keep. I remember my one of my sister-in-laws years ago used to photograph her kids' art, and then she could keep keep everything. So you always had a record of it, which is wonderful. But I don't know. That's a really good question. Maybe somebody has a good answer for me. I think right now, like I said, I prioritize things that seem like they represent her. I heard from another mom, they collect everything over the year, and then at the end of the year they go back through it and try to decide more or less what seems more important. It's kind of like clothes. Like we have all of my daughter's clothes, waiting to see what about this baby, what's happening. But at a certain point, we'll go through and we'll pick some clothes that really feel like they remind us of her, and then the rest we can let somebody else use. Okay, from BKWRTR14, Backwater, maybe? It said, I spoke of problem solving in my intro. Do I feel like creative exploration for children leads them to be better problem solvers? I definitely think that creative exploration for children leads them to be better problem solvers. Again, some of this is things that I'm hearing as I talk to educators and look at different preschools for my daughter and learn about what's good for kids and read books about it. But it seems like when kids and people are left to figure things out for themselves, they end up using those tools later in life. Even as simple as, there's a chair in Lila's way and we're in the kitchen. How is she going to get around it? Is she going to, it's like the old, bear went over the mountain. Or the little chair where you can go over it, you can go around it, can you go under it? So she can figure out, can she move the chair? Does she need to ask somebody to help her move the chair? Is she going to climb over the chair? And so I definitely think creativity plays a part in problem solving. I mean, that's why Gilligan's Island exists. They're trying to get off that island, and they're trying to figure out different ways to do it. So yeah, here's a question from Cleverly. This is good. She says, or she or he says, I think it's important as parents not to correct children when they are in their creative modes. How do you resist the urge to correct? That's a really good point. I try not to correct Lila. The only time that I find that I'm correcting her is when we're in a place where I don't want the paint on the carpet or on the wall or something. I try to create situations where that's not a problem. We use washable paints and washable finger paints, washable crayons. I try to enforce, so let's keep the crayons on the paper or on the cardboard house we're drawing on or on the can that we're drawing on. It is hard not to correct, and there's that fine line, especially when kids are really young, that I'm dealing with. When we have glitter, what is correct? In a way, it is correct for there to be glitter all over the house. So I try to choose the logistics. I try to set up the logistics in a better way so that she doesn't have to be corrected as much. So if we're outside playing with glitter, we don't have to worry as much about trying to get glitter out from the entire house and the sofa, or glue. But right now, for us, there's no right or wrong. Sometimes for us, again, it's just an issue of, is it proper to draw where she's drawing or what she's doing? Is it okay for her to give herself fingernail polish, which I don't know where she gets it, but I don't really wear polish, but she wants polish. If she paints her hands brown, is that okay? And I think it's okay You guys can tell me if that's is that bad. I don't know. I think it's okay. But I really try not to correct, especially when there really is no right and wrong. Again, like we were talking about coloring in the lines, there is a place for rules and correctness. That's sort of a different area of creativity, which is also fun to develop. But for us, for a 2-year-old, it's more about giving her freedom to be in situations that don't necessarily need to be corrected. Um, okay, from firsttimemommy.com, she's asking, do you think it's harder these days for kids to be more creative with all the technology and video games and less playing outside using your own imagination? I definitely think it can be harder with all of the tools. Even, we talk about even some of the arts and crafts tools that seem creative are still a little too directed. In our home, I'm old school. I try to work with crayons where color comes out and paint. And yes, sometimes we have stamps and things like that, but we try to use really hands-on things. And I think, again, because of different books I've read about raising children and different games and things that are good for children's brains, and also remembering my own childhood where we did watch a good amount of TV. Some of it was like Sesame Street, some of it was Gilligan's Island, like I mentioned before. But I think it's important to try to choose something else. Like if we can, even last night, Lila and I finished dinner, and we were going to go outside and visit a neighbor, but we got distracted. And we were going to maybe watch some videos. We were going to watch she has some Hebrew song videos that her grandparents gave her that she really loves. And she was going to do that, but we got distracted, and we started going through my makeup. And I have a lot of extra samples of makeup. And it was actually more creative. We didn't end up sitting in front of the TV or watching videos on the computer. We went through makeup, and we touched the powders and we felt them. And of course, with a 2-year-old, it wasn't about putting on the makeup. It was really about seeing the colors and seeing the shapes of the powder and the little tiny brushes and picking them up and trying them on little pieces of tissue or paper or on my hand. It was just this full sensory experience, and we were just the two of us sitting together. It was really a great and fun, imaginative experience. Again, she's a girl, and we were playing with makeup, but it wasn't about her having a makeover or anything like that. Okay, so again, I think it's more about making those choices, really trying to distract a 2-year-old from watching another video and saying, let's go outside and play. And you literally, you can spend half a day walking down your little block. I remember my friend Erin Courtney told me that. She's like, I remember 2-year-olds, you can spend the entire day just walking from your house to the corner, picking everything up and looking at it and feeling it. Okay, somebody named Co Rose wants to know, how would you suggest helping a 12-year-old with his musical dreams? My son composes actual pieces of music, mostly piano, from the website Noteflight, and also by playing on the keyboard. Wow, that's cool. I don't know the website Noteflight, but I think what you're saying right now is the best way to help your son. Just let him make music. Let him compose. If he's the kind of kid who, he already might know this, but if he's the kind of kid who would benefit from being able to read and write music, if he hasn't learned already, I would teach him as soon as possible, just because that's helpful for a composer. If it doesn't take away from his love of music, but just letting him play music, maybe sharing the music with friends or family or other appropriate audience type peoples. I don't know if there's talent shows. I don't know if he wants to be a performer. Knowing what the actual musical dream is would be helpful. I don't know if he wants to be a writer, or if he wants to be a performer, or if he wants to be famous, or if he wants to be, really good, or really good and famous, or so I think just helping him, just continuing to encourage him to actually play music. If he wants to be a performer, encouraging him to to be in safe performance situations, you know, whether it's at school or church or synagogue or um, I personally would recommend making sure he stays in school, but you know, that's not for everybody. Uh, I hope that's helpful. And also with the internet, we were talking about the internet earlier. Also consider his privacy. Like, don't necessarily put everything he does up on YouTube or on a website or something like that. Um, I don't know if that's the best idea for every kid. You know, it's important to protect your personal and private experience growing up. Okay, Heather wants to know what inspired me to write children's books. Um, well, I was inspired to do a children's book. It's not a novel, like it's not a story. It's not like a story. It's a collection of songs and lyrics with activities and some recipes. And I was inspired. I made a couple of kids records that were for kids that were um, fun to sing along. One was called Camp Lisa, and that was inspired by my summer camp experiences, where my friends Michelle Lewis and Dan Petty and I wrote some new music inspired by summer camp experiences, like making new friends or what to do when it rains, how you can still have fun. Um, we also recorded a bunch of songs that we had done ourselves in summer camp that were old traditional songs, and and then I got the opportunity to do a kids book where we used some of these songs that were very visual and fun. To do a collection of songs, and I didn't realize the importance of it until I had my daughter and we sit with lyrics and illustrated books of lyrics to songs and lullabies and traditional songs, and we just spent so much time looking at the words and singing together and looking at all the pictures. And so between my experience having my daughter and actually enjoying those books, which I didn't really know a lot about currently, you know, before I had my daughter. And then also the books I had when I was a lot younger, like there was a book based on the TV show Zoom that had lyrics and songs and pictures. Um, and again, you know, we were talking about technology earlier. I wanted to create something that kind of took you away from that. My book does come with a CD, so you can listen to the music either in the car or while you're reading the book, either way. But even just looking at the illustrated book, here, I have a copy here. I conveniently have a copy right here. Here's the book. Can you see it? Anyway, it's very cute and has lots of pictures drawn by Ryan O'Rourke. And again, it's very imaginative, and it's a nice focal point to spend time with your child. Or I've seen like my nieces hang out with their friends or with their sisters, and actually look at the book and sing along and make up their own lyrics. So it's a great starting point that's not technology based, really. You know, not like internet based. That's very interactive and very it's very interactive and creative on its own. And I wanted to make something like that. Um, so that's what inspired me to make children's books, and I think I'm continuing to be inspired to make more, just because again I see the value in having a daughter and spending that time with her reading books. And then again, it's that independence. She takes the books herself even at 2 years old, and she spends time with it, looking at it and talking about it. And um, I just think that's amazing to have that independence and also that interaction, and that to have that interaction with your child is amazing, and I love helping provide that. Um, the megalomaniac mommy says, "What are some of my favorite creative activities to do with my daughter?" Mm, wow, everything we do is always creative. Like I said, whether it's, you know, spreading the jelly on the toast, and there's the issue of drawing within the lines. Sometimes it is about painting the toast exactly with the jelly and fitting in the lines, and sometimes it's about painting everything else with the jelly. Um, but we also love, you know, traditional creative activities like sitting and coloring. We play with blocks a lot, or Lego. We build a lot of things. We started making tents on the sofa, moving chairs around. Um, one thing I've also enjoyed is we spend a lot of time reading, and a lot of the books still at this point are, of course, have a lot of illustrations. And like this morning, I was reading her a book called Chicken Sunday, and it's got a great story. It's a lot more text than sometimes a 2-year-old can sit through per, it's not like it's got a lot of text for each picture. But we read the book last night, and she really wanted to read it again this morning. So we got out of bed and we were reading it. And instead of, and I do this with her sometimes with that book and other books like Hop on Pop, or uh, um, there's a book we read called Love Ruby Valentine that has really lots of beautiful illustrations. I let her tell me what's happening in the book. Like I ask her to tell me what does she see and what's happening next. And sometimes it's exactly what the story says, and sometimes it's her imagination. But again, we love doing old school stuff like arts and crafts. We love using glitter glue and paint brushes and spreading it around. We love when holidays come up, like Mother's Day or birthdays or thank you cards. We love making cards. Like we just made one for our next door neighbor who had us over for cookies and juice this weekend. So I let Lila make her own card. And part of me, again, there was that control issue. I'm like, well, I need to write the message, and then Lila can do something. And then I thought, I need to step back and let her do her own thing. And if she wants to do glitter glue, or if she wants to do paint or markers or colors, she can do it. It's not, I can write a little message on something else and give it to the neighbor with the big card that Lila made herself. So I don't know if that answers the question. Those are some of my creative activities. Other than, again, just literally when we listen to music, she can make up her own words, and that's really fun, and I encourage her to do that. Or tell me what instruments she hears, which is a little more academic when you tell the parent what instruments you hear, a violin or you hear a banjo. Walking down the street is very creative for us. We pick things up. It can be academic, and she tells me she sees circles or shapes, different shapes in the branches of the trees, or a hole in the ground. Or she hears a bird. It could be very more academic, and then it could also be more abstract. So those are some of the things we do. From Sarah, she wants to know, how do I mix music and fine arts with my daughter? We just, honestly, my husband is really in charge of the music in the house, and he's really good about having music playing often. I'm more of the person who has the house quiet. I listen to NPR a lot, but I don't think that's appropriate for Lila to be listening to all the talk about all the wars and politics and everything like that. So we have music around in the house. Sometimes we listen to it during meals, all different kinds of music. One of her favorite bands is the Foo Fighters. We listen to that a lot. We listen to her music that her grandparents from Israel gave her that's in Hebrew. We listen to, I like a lot of this pop songs from the 70s, which we listen to. And she tells us too, she might say that she wants to hear certain songs or certain things. So we listen to music, and fine arts, again, is just part of the house. Like in every room there are markers and crayons. And again, the control issue, if we're in the kitchen and she happens to see a marker that is a ballpoint pen, or a permanent marker, as long as it's safe, I find some paper and we just draw, or we just pick up where we are and we make things, or we fold paper, or we fold napkins. Everything becomes a creative event. And with the fine arts also, we do have a few kids books. Like there's one that has a different, like there's paintings by Monet, an Impressionism book that's a kids book where you can look at literally fine arts. Or we listen to classical music, it's literally fine arts. But it's just integrated in our daily life everywhere. And again, part of it is just experiencing it, and it's just the music is just on, or the pictures are on the wall or in books. And part of it is the little bit more academic side of it, which I can't help because I came from that background, where not only are we just experiencing it, but I'll talk to her and say, oh, do you hear that? That's a violin. Do you hear that? That's a, we'll name instruments. We'll try to play the beat of of a particular song on the table, which we can't quite do that yet. So it's a combination of just experiencing and then sometimes labeling things. Let's see, somebody wants to know, where do I turn to for activities and advice and inspiration? That's a really good question. Often I make things up. Often I ask other moms, what do they think? Or I ask our nanny what she thinks, because she has a lot of experience with different art projects, things that sometimes involve a product like a welcome home mommy card or a happy birthday card. Some of them just involve, touching cornmeal. But when I have a problem and I can't figure out what to do next, I go to the websites. Like I do actually go to like the Crayola.com website or other mommy blog websites to see if somebody can suggest something to me. It's kind of like when I'm making a recipe. If I know I have glitter glue and I have construction paper and a bag of beans, I might type those things in and see if somebody has an idea. I also have a really old book called How to Make a Flibber, which is from the early 70s, late 60s, which has some simple activities. But I do definitely turn to the internet to get new ideas for that, for sure. Does anybody else have any more questions? One activity that we really love to do, just because early on we started with the thumbprints and the fingerprints and the handprints, and we did a project once for a teacher where we turned a handprint into a different animal. That's something I'm always interested in too, which kind of speaks to the what do you do with the artwork that your kids make. I mean, it's not really the equivalent of just keeping artwork, but you can turn, especially when the kids are much younger and they don't necessarily have ownership over their art, you can turn their thumbprints and fingerprints and handprints into animals and shapes and things like that. And you can even ask them to help you figure out what to turn it into. And it can be very creative for you too, just like it is for me. Aurora, I can't actually read the name because my type is so small. Astra? I don't know. Anyway, what are my favorite Crayola products? Ooh, that's dangerous. My favorite Crayola project. My favorites are, personally, I like the huge box of crayons, and I love when new colors come out or sparkles or, skin tones, things like that. I just love it. For my daughter, I love all the washable things, especially the washable finger paints. She gets to choose colors. We save takeout containers, plastic lids to put the colors in, and she can help me squeeze them. And we either use our fingers or we use brushes. We paint on the side of her cardboard house, or huge pads of paper, or toilet paper rolls or pieces of paper towel. So anyway, washable things, washable markers we love, especially. I know there's a lot of products that are created that are supposed to be easier for young kids to hold and things, but for us, it's always been easier just to have the big crayons, the washable crayons, old school round crayons, and markers. I secretly take some of the darker markers out of the pack sometimes when I don't feel like washing a lot of navy and black off of hands and walls and body parts and clothes. But we love the washable paints. The Sidewalk Chalk is also fantastic. We use that outside on the sidewalk, and we also use that on an indoor chalkboard. We use it on paper. So yeah, Sidewalk Chalk. I want to try those colorful bubbles I saw. That looks really cool. But bubbles, parents know this, especially for 2-year-olds, can be a big event because 2-year-old wants to hold the bubbles and they spill and it becomes very messy. But the colorful bubbles. But anyway, washable things. That's what we really, really love. And glitter glue. Mommy Insider wants to know, does my daughter gravitate towards certain Crayola colors, or is she pretty open to using a variety of colors in her artwork? She actually, it's funny, we talk about colors a lot. She learned the names of her colors pretty early on. And it's very funny. She says, Mommy, I like purple. You like pink. Grandma, Daddy likes green. Safta likes orange. Like, she remembers whose favorite color is what, and she gives them to you. But she uses all the colors. She uses a lot of black. She uses yellow. But she does get really excited about choosing her colors. You know, sometimes she knows the names, sometimes she doesn't, but she gets very excited. And her favorite is purple. So, and she also loves, again, the glitter and the glitter glue. Sometimes we have to keep the loose glitter out of her sight when we don't have time to clean it up. Um, so yeah, she does gravitate towards certain colors, and I can't wait till we break out the big box of crayons so she can really, you know, go wild. I think also, you know, there's this added benefit. We also use a lot of the markers, and there's that added benefit of that, um, you know, using your hands, using your fingers, taking the top off, putting it back on. And I think that's part of the activity with the crayons. For us, it's about peeling the crayons. Part of it is about using the crayons, and then part of it is about peeling the crayons or putting them in and outside of a box. So, you know, there's different levels of involvement there. Um, Kimmy wants to know, how do I determine if my child is old enough for some projects? My son is 2 and I'm struggling with finding age-appropriate activities that he doesn't get bored with quickly. You know what? Again, I'm no expert. I'm just a mom of one child who's 2. But um, I know there can be a lot of frustrations. Like this morning, or yesterday morning, my daughter had a little bit of a cold, and so we were doing arts and crafts with her, and she really, really always wants to use scissors. And we have some pretty sharp scissors in the house. And her grandmother gave her a pair of scissors that was meant for a 4-year-old. It has the rounded tip, and it's a little bit more of a safety scissors. It's still too old for her, but we finally decided to break it out and sit with her and help her cut. Um, but I think it's normal for I mean, again, I don't know for sure, but I think it's normal for a 2-year-old to get bored of things, or at least maybe not bored as much as frustrated. And I think if we think of them, and again, this is just from my experience in little classes and from things I've learned, I think the more the kids have freedom to do whatever they want with the tools that are there, the better. And again, part of it can be the process. Like for my daughter, sometimes the painting is about literally putting paint on the paintbrush and then on the paper. And some of it sometimes is about pouring the water from the little cup we have that's to rinse off the brushes, pouring it into another cup and then pouring it back again. So it's really just being comfortable with the tools. It's not about making anything. I think making things is really for us. In fact, she's in a little preschool kind of program right now where they don't even really get their own piece of paper to make their own project. They have a big canvas on the wall and they all participate. It's really about the process and not just about that project that they make. So I think if you think about that a little bit, but I'm trying to balance it too, you know, because we'll start painting and then she'll say, no, I want Play-Doh. And I'm thinking, well, I'm not sure if she's ready, if she's really done or not. You know what I mean? Like, so we try to clean one thing up and then move on to the next thing, or have a variety of different materials that can work together. Um, but yeah, that's a hard thing. I'm sort of figuring out the same thing. Sometimes you need to do something else. Also, um, it might be where you're doing the art. Like you might need to go outside and do something. It might not be about sitting and making a project on a piece of paper. It might be about going outside and collecting leaves and putting them in a bucket. And then maybe later, if you want to make a project, gluing them on something or painting them. But sitting still at 2 years old is not necessarily for everybody either. I'm not saying that it's your child's thing, you know, issue, but you know what I mean? It might be about the location and the surroundings and sitting still for a certain amount of time. Okay, the last question is from Chris. Chris wants to know who have been some of the biggest creative influences in my life. I think, again, my parents were big creative influences. They always played piano around the house and had music and enjoyed visual art. And I think my siblings also, my sister Debbie and my brother Ben and Philip, are big influences. They brought in their own interests and experiences, and we all encourage each other as far as creativity, whether it's grown-up kind of creativity or you know, like or teenage creativity, like writing songs or making something. I think we all gave each other space and were supportive of each other. Also, some of the teachers, like my third grade teacher, Mrs. Kroom, she was our art teacher and our science teacher, which is an interesting combination. And like I said, she taught us about fine art, literally paintings, but she also taught us activities like, let's observe a cucumber for 2 weeks and see what happens, and let's draw pictures of it, and just this in-depth experience and realization that you can observe things and really take in a lot from that. She also taught us about opera, and she also taught us about making paper mache. So she was a big inspiration to me. As a grown-up, Natalie Goldberg, who's a writing teacher and writes books about writing, she's a big influence on me. And just having friends and family who are very supportive of creativity. When you feel comfortable being creative, you're more apt to continue to be creative, and I think that's really important. Um, Finally, I wanted to thank everybody for coming to the chat. Tomorrow night, I'm going to be doing a live online concert. Hello, Internet. I'm going to be in front of the Internet again. It's supposed to be at 4 o'clock Pacific Standard Time, which is 7 o'clock Eastern, and then depending on where you are in the country, I'm going to be doing a kids concert, and it's a short show. It'll be about 30 minutes, and I'll be singing songs from my Silly Song Sing-Along book, and other requests, and it'll probably be from my kitchen unless my daughter has just woken up and she's running around. Um, but anyway, I wanted to thank you so much. Hopefully I'll see you again here or tomorrow night at stageit.com. You can find out more about everything on my website, lisaloeb.com. And I hope to see you soon. Oh, right, and tomorrow night at Stageit, we have Crayola. That's the cool thing about doing this web chat, too. Crayola gave me some things so that we have awesome prizes tomorrow night. You have opportunities to win Crayola prizes tomorrow night. So you might want to go there. Just, if not for the music, for the possible prizes you might win from Crayola. All right, thank you so much for being a part of this, and I hope to continue to see you guys soon, somewhere.